Welcome back, everybody. It's Bagels and Locks podcast. If you're listening, please like, subscribe, comment. We'd appreciate the support. This has been really fun to keep going here. Man, we have a fun slate to talk about. March Madness has been mad. And some good predictions if you were listening to the podcast from Harambe over here. We will also talk about the women, which people are watching, so we're going to talk about it. UFL started. If you're a football fan, believe it or not, it is kind of watchable. We have baseball started, which is fun betting, and NHL and NBA still going on. NBA is pretending to still be going on, and we have NHL coming up. But let's get right into March Madness. I'm going to start right now and give some props to Harambe Covers over here, who told everybody on this podcast, NC State. And if you were betting NC State and just rolling it over, you would have like $500,000 right now on $100 bets. So let's talk about that. Why do you think this happened? You're not surprised. The rest of us are. How did we get here?
Well, I am surprised, just like everybody else. And yes, you are right. If you did roll that $100 over from the ACC tournament, you'd be about $660,000.
Crazy.
Now, I don't think I would ever make it that far. That's like saying you would hold on to Bitcoin. You know, eventually, there's at some point you're going to break.
Paper hands.
Exactly. I have those, unfortunately. But that said, I mean, look, NC State, we were talking on one of our episodes, you know, the first one for March Madness, and saying, where's that Cinderella? Where is that team? And they just came in so hot. And they're dogs. I mean, I know they're the wolf pack, but they are dogs, and they're playing like dogs, and they're playing so well together. And DJ BJ, let's talk about this guy. I mean, the guy is not just a phenomenal persona, an entrepreneur, owns a couple vending machines, and he's, you know, making some money there on campus, but he's just a stud, and he's just rallying the team. He's that guy. And I mean, I wasn't really sold on NC State. Mama Harambe actually took NC State to win it all in her bracket. And I laughed at her, and I told her, if you're doing that, just bet on them. And I just wish I tailed and just bet them to win it all.
That will win a bracket. Like, she may win whatever bracket challenge.
She had no idea. She had no idea. She goes, I listened to your first podcast, and I just kind of went with it. And then I just did my own thing. I'm like, okay. So I was looking at her bracket, and I go, wait, what? And, you know, she has her final four, I just got to give her this shout out, was UConn, I think Bama, NC State, and then she has like, it was like Samford. Okay. Like, which I was like, okay,
shot in the dark, but very impressive because, and you're right, NC State, they seem to have this one player, Burns, that is unstoppable. Watching that game against Duke, he got in some foul trouble. He went out. I thought that was Duke's chance. They did, take this lead in that game, and I thought, I was going to hit my betting Duke to cover. But yeah, once Burns got back in, his footwork is so good. He's such a powerful body. Do you think it translates to the NBA after this? I think he's a little small, right?
It does not translate to the NBA, but there is lots of talks that it could translate to the NFL.
Interesting. His footwork's good. What position does he play? Defensive tackle, tight end, maybe tight end.
I don't know so much tight end. Probably like a defensive tackle.
A defensive. He's that large. Yeah,
he's just a big man.
He's a big man.
And maybe Duke was thinking about what victory TikToks they're about to film, and
at least we're done with that.
It's the generation.
Where's Colin, though? Do you think that he was watching?
Colin is sad, but, maybe they're painting nails now together. Man. Let me put in I need a little lip pillow.
Nice. I'll do the same. But, what's interesting is, and part of my analysis to bet Duke was that in that game against Houston, they played very tough. And they showed that they were this tough team. And then against NC State, they showed like they were the TikTok dancers again.
Right.
And they just got bullied. I don't know if Burns is going to have a career in the NFL, but he should look at opening up a winnable account because I think that he'd be an excellent personality. He's got a great persona. That's part of the fun of this March Madness. You're learning about these people you never would have cared about.
It's true.
The NC State coach, I think, was on the hot seat even before ACC championship. Very impressive what they're doing. Let's move further down the bracket.
Okay.
Purdue, which a lot of people expected to be there. Another dominant player, Edey. Man, and you might have a different take on this, but I am just so bored watching this Purdue team. They play such an old school game inside out, dump it down to Edey. He seems to get every call that there is, but they've been successful. And look, the Purdue train keeps rolling on.
They definitely do get the calls, but you have to remember the man is 7'4", right? You're trying to guard him. You're going to foul. Is it boring? Yeah, it's a little bit boring, but it works. It's kind of like watching Mayweather box, right? We would watch him, and it's just very like just going back and forth, and then jab, and then defense, and he get the win, right? Just based on
the process.
On the process, exactly. So, they dump it in, they kick it out. If these dudes are not hitting their shots, Purdue is doomed and they're in trouble. It's what happened to them in Wisconsin, and they're running into a fire team of NC State. I'm looking at the points here, and it's 9.5. I think it's a lot. I think NC State can cover the 9. I maybe buy it up a little bit to 10. And, if they lose, I see it a close game. The over-under is 145.5. I'm not so much sold on the over. But, looking at this matchup, I like NC State still. I think I'm still going to ride them to it.
Oh, man. So this is difficult for me because, when you feel like you've just missed the train and you don't want to be the last one to get on the train. Right. And I'm worried that I've just been betting against them every time. And now I'm finally going to bet NC State.
It's going to bite you in the ass.
And it's going to bite me. So, I've sat at a baccarat table and bet player, and banker keeps coming out. And I'm like, the next time I'm going to bet banker because this is what's rolling. And then player comes out. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I'm not going against Purdue. The spread is interesting because it is high, and it's kind of like, I wonder what the spread would have been without this run. If just NC State and Purdue met in the beginning of this tournament, it probably would have been something like 15 points.
More.
Yeah, more. So it is attractive kind of to bet the spread, but I think I'm going to focus more on this over-under. It's set at 145. That would appear to be a low number, but I actually think that this is going to be a grinding game. Both inside players are going to be going at each other. I'm really interested to see this matchup of Edey and Burns. You got 7 feet tall. You got 300 plus pounds. Who's going to win the battle? Is it weight? Is it height? I think I'm leaning towards the under. I'll keep looking at more analysis about this game.
And on this, and you were saying you're not a big fan of Edey, right? And Tennessee was actually complaining about Edey. I get it. I think he's getting, and this is why I like NC State, he's getting a little bit too much. If you look, he dropped F-bombs on a live TV
and
interview.
He said he had a boner.
Yes, he had blood flowing to his when the guys were on their own TikToks or Instagram lives. Saying that he had, an erection.
You said a boner.
A boner.
We can use the word.
Okay,
boner is okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Boner.
Boner. So yeah, he said he had a boner. And it's like, dude, slow down, right? We saw the Purdue collapse against Wisconsin in the Big Ten, and that's why I'm leaning NC State. NC State's playing fun, hard basketball, and Purdue is playing almost like cocky. Yeah. Like, we have this guy and he's our saving grace and he has a boner, so we're going to win.
Well, we'll see if he gets the call. Speaking of boners, another video that came out, there's a video going viral of him letting a girl at a party into his room.
Yes.
It looks like I forget what his name is. Was it Gandalf or something in Lord of the Rings? Gandalf going into like the Hobbit's house.
Yes.
Like just letting in Frodo. It was pretty funny.
It was a night of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And also a photo leaked of him in like a dispensary as well. So I don't know.
He's a character. We got a lot of characters in this matchup. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, UConn has just been, as I predicted. I remember on the last podcast, I predicted they would be here in the Final Four. I think I predicted Purdue as well, and that UConn would win the whole thing. Man, can they be stopped? I mean, they've won every game by double digits here.
UConn is a wagon. They've been a wagon, and they're 10-0 against the spread. If you've been betting UConn, you're a rich man. They are looking phenomenal. UConn keeps getting these ridiculous spreads of 11 double-digit points in each round, and we're like, oh, that's a lot. And they're just wrecking teams. They did they kept it close, and all of a sudden, the boys go, you know what? Enough's enough. Let's go on a 30-0 run. I mean, when you are in the Elite Eight and Sweet 16 in these rounds, there is no business for a 30-0 run. I mean, you're manhandling legit good teams. And UConn is just a wagon. And we'll get to the spread in a minute because we'll be able to talk about who they're playing. But, again, another double-digit spread, which is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, and everyone's picking them. They seem to also have just every facet of the game. They can score, they can defend. I actually believe that we talk about the big men on NC State and on Purdue, but UConn might have the best big man, right? Like the way he's playing, offensive, defensive, he's out of these guys is probably going to be the highest NBA pick. Mm-hmm. He's more athletic. He's got length. He can score. He can defend. UConn is so good, and they're playing Bama, who a lot of people didn't see being here, but you talked about it in the beginning when we started this March Madness discussions a couple episodes ago. Mm-hmm. They can score.
Yes, they can.
And at the end of the day, it's about scoring more points than your opponent. And if they're shooting, Sears is making...
Sears is open, folks. He thought it closed.
Yeah, everyone thought Sears was done, bankrupt, but guess what? It's open, and man, was it open, because what did he hit, like 6 threes? It was insane.
Something crazy, and it was funny to just see Bama Clemson in an Elite Eight game when we're so accustomed to anytime you hear Bama and Clemson, you're thinking college football playoff.
Right.
So it was nice seeing a little SEC action there, and then in the South region, not to jump backwards too far, but you had a ACC matchup with the Duke NC State. So it was nice seeing these types of rivalries run into one another. But Bama, and it's not necessarily that they score so much. It's just they push the ball so fast that they have more opportunity to score. They run down the court, and their over-unders are always high because of that. They're only taking 10 to 12 seconds before firing that ball. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we look and we see this over-under in this UConn game against Bama sitting at 160.5. I know it's a lot. And our UConn friends are always like, oh, it's going to be a slow game. And I kept actually betting the UConn point totals over, 74.5, 75.5, 73.5. One game was 80, took it. And so UConn is scoring. So even if Bama isn't getting every bucket, it's giving more time for UConn to score. So that's why I like the over here. I just see UConn running the court with Bama. I know UConn's going to try to slow them down, slow the pace, but I mean, UConn's sinking their buckets. It's just a matter of will Bama put up 65, 70, and I can see it because they're only taking so much time off the clock.
Yeah, and Bama will shoot the ball.
Right.
They have good shooters.
Right.
So I am scared of 11.5 points.
Some places it's 12.
I still believe that UConn's going to win. I don't know if I'm going to target that number. I think it's the Final Four. It's a huge game. I would expect it to be closer than 12 points. Maybe not. They just been steamrolling everyone. But I agree with you. That 160.5, it's interesting because two teams that can obviously score, they've scored throughout. UConn pretty much has been covering their over individually. Correct. Every single time. And we saw spreads in those UConn games and some other games. Maybe it was Bama's game that was much higher. I saw some spreads hitting 170. Mm-hmm. So I actually am really liking that 160.5 and to bet that over. I think I'm pretty sure that's where I'm going to be betting. Again, it's early in the week.
Right.
Things come out. analysis comes out, analysis paralysis sometimes.
Worst.
Probably your first instinct. I always think with betting, I go, I was going to bet that. And then I read an article from a capper I trust. That's why also, shout out to Winnable again. Find those cappers you trust.
Amen.
Ride them, especially the ones that are hot in March Madness. So we have the table set. Let's discuss it again after everything we saw. Who is going to be in the national championship? I say UConn and I say Purdue. Very chalky, but that's what I see. You might have a different theory.
I mean, honestly, do I really think that will be the outcome? I do. But something in my heart tells me the Purdue train is over.
Ooh.
We're going to have dog versus dog, the Huskies and the Wolfpack. And it's going to be
a 20-point line. That's if that happens, that it will be at least 15 points. The line of UConn beating NC State.
Yeah,
that has to be. If this line is 9.5.
Well, Bama was a 4 seed, and they're getting almost 12 points. Yeah, it would be like a 15.
It would be a 15-point line,
maybe 17 and a half.
And everyone would be trying to guess that final score in their bracket. Nobody had UConn and NC State.
No one.
Except for Mama Harambe.
Who had UConn then winning.
UConn winning against NC State.
Yeah, and if you want to know, I think it was 81-74 was her score. If that happens, I'll lose my mind.
Wow, that is crazy. It also just shows that analysis paralysis, at the end of the day, go with who you think has the cool uniforms. Now, that was not the only March Madness going on.
It is not.
There was a big women's matchup last night.
Two.
But the one that everyone was talking about, LSU going against Caitlin Clark, former last year's champion, going against this year's player who some even go as far to say could play on an NBA team. She is pretty incredible the way that she plays.
And you said it exactly what it was. It was LSU as a whole against Caitlin Clark. I actually bet LSU. I will lick my wounds, only because I thought in my head and reading and analysis and everything that it is a team game at the end of the day, and Caitlin Clark would need to have like one of the games of her life.
Well, guess what? She did.
She did. Put up over 40 points. LSU kept it close, and then they were winning at one point, and then all of a sudden Caitlin Clark was just like firing from all cylinders. Yeah. Anytime she threw the ball up, it was going in. And I was like, you know what? This is a show. It was worth the L. This is an amazing woman playing this game of basketball, and she's just crushing it. It's just awesome. I feel good for the women's college basketball. They get no notoriety, no notice. And shout out to Caitlin Clark for putting them, women's basketball on the map. I know we've had the Diana Taurasi's and the Lisa Lobos and all this, but it not to this level of where she was playing a 3-point contest against Steph Curry.
Right. and I think that brought some attention to how good she is. Mm-hmm. Speaking of shows going on there, and I hate to sound like a curmudgeon-y old man, but man, that was really disrespectful that LSU team walked right off the court during our national anthem. And I know we're so many years removed from Colin Kaepernick and LeBron tweeting out a picture of little Dicky and saying that he feels for his friend Colin Kaepernick. But here we go again. And I don't even know what they're protesting this time. Do you have any idea?
So, no. I mean, I think I do, but I'm just going to leave it at that. The shameful part is just as I was applauding getting women's basketball on the map, right, they instantly are going to turn so many people. Like, it's like you finally got your spotlight. Kudos. Your national televised. Everyone's talking about it, from Parting Interruption, First Take, Pat McAfee. All these big ESPN shows are talking about it. Maybe because it was on ESPN.
And Bagels and Locks.
and yes, and Bagels and Locks. But, it's one of those things like you finally got your moment, and that's what you're going to do. It's just going to turn people off. And almost like, how baseball can't afford to lose Ohtani.
Yeah.
Women's college basketball cannot afford to lose viewership and fans of what they have because of that.
Yeah, and especially once they got it, like you're pointing out, you finally are in the spotlight of everything happening last night. It wasn't the NBA games. It wasn't NHL. It was women's college basketball, which is insane.
I've never seen it.
Right, that we've gotten here. But then you go ahead and make it about yourself and walk out. Because let's be honest, you might have some more altruistic intention of walking out on the anthem and doing that, but you know that the spotlight is going to be shined on you, that you walked out. So instead of the game, instead of this great matchup between champion and what everyone perceives to be the champion, you go ahead and make this game about you walking out, because that's what people are going to focus on. We're talking about it right now. I feel like it has to be said. It was really disappointing in my eyes. And especially, we should be over this. We saw how the backlash with Kaepernick, I mean, he never really played again. And now here we are again talking about this. I really wish it would stop. One of the things that I think is awesome about going to NHL games, you have those Canadian teams that come in to the United States. You play both anthems. You show respect for the country and this great country that's allowing you to play a game.
And you have guys from like Sweden, Finland, Russia that have zero association to either anthem in reality.
Right.
But these are the leagues that are paying them. So respect the country that you are playing in. And you got embarrassed. I mean, you let Caitlin Clark mop you across the floor. So you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
You played like idiots.
Karma.
I mean, and then on the other side, I don't want to forget about the other two women teams there, UConn and USC. You had probably, besides Caitlin Clark, the next best player in women's basketball at USC, Juju, and they lost. UConn, so UConn men and women might get the job done.
Just a basketball powerhouse. Well, speaking of things that are American, and that's football.
Let's go.
We love football.
America.
And guess what? You might not have been paying attention, but there was football this weekend. It was the UFL, which is the XFL and UFL combined now, and they've kept the UFL name. And you know what? We were together and we were watching some UFL and betting it as well. Unsuccessfully, by the way, but we're learning the teams. But I was watching the product, and it is football. It is football just like the NFL in terms of it's competitive, it's the same game, and it's enjoyable. And I honestly think that there is a place for spring football. We miss it. Everybody misses football. And I'm telling you, there is a good product out there with former NFL players, with some good young guys that maybe have a chance to make it to the NFL. AJ McCarron was throwing the pill, not as well as I would have hoped. I thought he would do better. There's some good guys in there. And I think that I'm going to continue betting it. I'm going to continue watching it. And you know what? There's nothing better on a Saturday after a day of maybe a couple little bevies and sitting on the couch and watching some football get played. What'd you think?
Totally agree with you. I mean, the UFL, we all need to embrace it. If you like sports and you like football, please give it a chance. And the only reason why I say it is I don't want to see it go. We are getting into the dog days of summer. NBA and NHL are wrapping up. We're going to have baseball and only baseball. If you don't want only baseball, then, and it gives the guys a chance to make it into the NFL, like a farm league. You have your minor league baseball, you have your G League, you have certain leagues for all these major sports. Give these dudes a place to play other than playing like European football, in Europe. The UFL, it is a good product. I like it. I like what they did with the rule changes. The team names are funny. The Showboats and the Brahmas and things like that. And speaking of Brahmas, shout out UCF. We had former UCF kicker Destroying, as he goes by, on YouTube. Check him out. I mean, the dude was hitting like 70 and 80-yard field goals on YouTube. He got cut by UCF because of his YouTube videos. This is back when, you couldn't make money in college, unfortunately. And he's playing for the Brahmas. There was a play that I want to just bring up. He went to go kick a 66-yard field goal, I want to say, and they iced him. He missed it. They went to go do it again, and he goes and they do a fake play, and they pull the punter in. The punter throws a 50-yard touchdown pass to the center down the middle. The center runs and scores. Yeah. So, I mean, it's fun. It's football, like you said. It gives you something, you know, when you're sipping on a drink or drank, whichever one you prefer, you know, it's nice.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. And shouts to UCF. We both went to it is a kicker's school. Matt Prater. We got this guy, the Destroyer. And this actually is a real helmet from a UCF kicker. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, there's some exciting storylines. Hopefully they promote it well. I would like to see it stay also, and especially because, like you said, baseball just started, which is exciting at first. It's a long season, 162 games. Crazy how long it is, but it used to be our national pastime. I would say football is kind of now, you know, there's been enough years, right? But like you said, we have NBA going on at the end of this season.
Is NBA still going on?
Yeah, I mean, not the way it was. Like, I'm wearing an NBA jersey, my Knicks. I'm going to see tonight against the Heat.
Every episode, you're going to a game. What is going on?
Well, I love sports. I love sports. This is why I'm involved with it for a living. Shouts to Winnable. Thank you for being successful and allowing me to do what I love. But, you know, NBA, man, the product right now, and especially betting on it, is rough because these players, they're done. They are tired. They want to just go to the playoffs. You know, if you're on the Pistons or the Trailblazers, your season's done. You don't care. You're getting blown out. Then you have, you know, these top players who, like, betting props right now is probably the worst thing ever. You have all the props set at these players' averages, but they're getting taken out early to rest. The good players, they're tired themselves. They've been playing 45 minutes, you know, especially if you're playing for Tom Thibodeau. You're playing every minute of the season. It's exhausting. And this is the fatigue at the end of the year of NBA, NHL. You just want to get to the playoffs.
So you said don't bet props, but do you bet props of the bench guys, the overs?
The Jonte Porters. Never the over on Jonte.
Never the over because we know he'll be sick. But you get what I'm saying. Like, there's place that you might be able to see weakness, though, in that. But yes, NBA, I'm just kind of staying away from it right now. You said it. They just don't care. They're tired. Some teams are even, quote unquote, you know, purposely losing to fall in certain areas for their matchup for the playoffs. I know last night I saw a spread. I think it was Magic Trailblazers. It was like 15.5. Trailblazers lost by like 1 or 2.
Right. So, but then they lost by almost 60 against the Heat the other night. The Trailblazers. It's just, like I said, it's very difficult right now to project out what's going on, and teams are banged up. But my Knicks, especially, I mean, we can barely get a team out there. I really hope I see some of my favorite players tonight actually play. Yeah, it's very difficult, but that, you know, leads us to the beginning of baseball, which I like to bet baseball in the beginning. You know, baseball has a lot of like intricacies with betting that's very interesting. You know, spreads are very difficult because there's so many one-run games, but you have these different betting strategies like Nerfies, which I know you like, which is betting no-run first innings.
Right.
It's always the favored bet, but it's a fun, quick, you know, quick bet where you find out if you won or lost very quick. And if you bet it over the course of a night on almost every game, you know, it could be a winning strategy.
It could. And the Nerfie is getting very popular because we are on the age. And I think a couple episodes you said it ago, like, it's boring. The ADD of us now, we just can't sit through a full baseball game. So that no run first inning is very attractive to a lot of bettors. Another bet that I've seen very attractive, because baseball, when we look at these spreads and we look at the matchup, we're looking at the starting pitchers. A lot of these guys don't get out of like the 6th inning. So a big bet that I notice is the first 5 innings. You can bet first 5 innings, or like pitcher strikeouts. A lot of the hitting, the home runs, the RBIs, these are all lotto tickets, because there are guys that, you know, you had Mike Trout yesterday, I believe he had 2 home runs. Then he'll go maybe a week of no home runs, right? Yeah. So it's very like roller coaster. But the pitching strikeouts and nerfy, and the first 5 innings seem to be very, very popular because you have teams. Let's use I know I'm wearing a Mariners jersey, but like my Phillies, is a good team, but their bullpen is hot garbage. Yeah. I mean, they're below. I had the under in the Braves game. We were watching it together, having some brews, and it was 2-1 or 2-2, and I was like, 7th inning, I'm locked, I'm good. All of a sudden, the Braves scored like 6 or 7 in the 8th, and I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. And, right now it's the beginning of the season, so we're learning a lot about the teams. What we are learning is my Yankees, who are the only team that's 5-0, and they look great. I was expecting them to be better with Soto, but man, do they look good. They swept a good Houston Astros team, way better than their record at 1-4, at home, Astros being at home. Very impressed. I'm excited. Maybe I will be locked into baseball if the Yankees stay this good. But again, it's beginning of the season. We're learning a lot about the teams, good bullpens, good starting pitching. Is their hitting going to come together? But I agree with you with betting with baseball. You have to be a little smarter. Have to understand with the analysis a little more what's going to happen on a game-to-game basis. There's 162 games, so imagine a team wins 100 games. They're elite. That's great, but they're going to lose 62. So
they can go on a run of 3 games, 4 or 5.
So a lot could change, and even if they lose 62 games, you might still win betting them to win the first half. Right? If they blow it at the end, that's how they get their losses. It'll be an interesting summer. We're not going to stop betting, so we'll probably lock in a lot more on that. And finally, let's finish with the NHL because that is still going on. We love the NHL. Panther season ticket holder, former Panther season ticket holder, both Panthers fans. And futures came out yesterday, updated for the Stanley Cup. And who is there on top to win the whole thing?
I'm pulling it up.
The Florida Panthers. I don't know if this is a curse, if Vegas knows something. I love the way they're playing. But, man, there are like 7 teams competing for that President's Cup trophy.
Which is a curse in itself, right? 2 years ago, the Panthers, one and done. Last year, the Bruins,
one and done. To the Panthers.
Yeah. So, look, the NHL is one of those opposite of the NBA where these guys, they don't give a shit if it's October or April. They are playing lights out every night. Now, granted, the goalies might get an extra night rest, but about that matchup prior to, placing your bet. The coach will tell you, who the starting goalie will be. Looking at the odds, I am not very thrilled with the Panthers right now. They got demolished last night, couple nights before, and I was telling you, like, they're not scoring since the trade deadline, which they had an amazing, trade deadline presence and made great acquisitions, kind of falling apart. I know they got Ekblad back and certain guys, but the Panthers right now are scaring me. And they were hot. They're getting cold at the wrong time. Hopefully they can turn it on. They can get things back together. But looking at the odds, you have the Panthers. Let's see here. Plus 650. Carolina also at plus 650. Colorado at plus 700. Edmonton 750. Your Rangers for New York at
my former team.
Yeah.
I'm bought in with them.
Yeah.
I still root for them, but I'm bought in with them.
900. Dallas, Boston at 1,000. Vegas 1,200. Vancouver 14 and Toronto 14. Mm-hmm. Now, Vancouver is great value, folks. If you actually want to bet a Stanley Cup winner, Vancouver is playing amazing hockey. The only reason why I think Vegas has them so low is because a Canadian team just seemed to not be able to finish and win the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's just this curse.
Well, and Boston's interesting there. You said they're plus 1,000?
1,000. Great value.
Now, that game that I was headed to in our last podcast, that felt like a playoff game.
It was.
The atmosphere, not yet there in the arena, but man, those two teams played as if it was playoffs, and Boston came out on top. They have the talent. They're 1 year removed from breaking records in terms of wins. At plus 1,000, that might be an interesting little sprinkle that I might do.
Even Dallas plus 1,000.
But yeah, so it's going to be exciting. Stanley Cup playoffs, it's almost like a new season. It could really be anyone. NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, you know the teams that have the good shot of winning, but in the NHL, it could really be anyone.
It literally is.
So I'm excited for us to watch that. But thanks for joining us on this podcast. It was fun.
Yep. Be sure to subscribe.
Subscribe, like, comment, engage with us. We'll respond back. And thanks for joining us for another episode, and we will see you guys all soon.
Adios.